like to call to order the Plan Commission meeting for April 5th, 2023 at 6:10 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Attendance roll call.
Commissioner Graff. Here. Commissioner Oliver.
Here.
Alderman Madden.
Here.
Commissioner Kazana is absent. Commissioner Buckmaster absent. Commissioner Bartlett.
Here.
Mayor Pafalski.
Present.
Dr. Chesbotowski.
Here.
Statement of public notice.
The agenda was posted and distributed to all news media requesting notification in accordance with the open meeting laws on Friday, March 31st.
Thank you. Public hearing. Public hearing for a conditional use grant in accordance with the Muskego zoning ordinance for the purpose of allowing an auto sales and service facility located at South 73 West 16730 Janesville Road, tax key number 2198.984.002. Adam.
Thank you, Mayor. So this proposal is for the old Pizza Hut location. The applicant has submitted a proposal for a building site and operation plan and conditional use grant to convert the existing building and then also put on a 2,600 square foot addition for auto sales and auto service. The plans that you'll see that were in the plan packet and will be put up on the screen when we discuss this item further detail later will show extensive remodeling. Definitely won't look like a Pizza Hut any longer. They are showing a whole different variety of different materials. The applicant and their architect has worked real significantly with the city to get the design to the point where it's at today. So we want to thank them for that as they definitely put a lot of effort into making it look like a building that we'd expect to see in our downtown area of Janesville Road. Mayor, do you want me to kind of go over all like the BSO stuff now?
Yeah, why don't you?
Okay. Let me pull up all the plans. So as far as architecture goes, this is governed by the downtown design guide and our general design guide. And the building is keeping a pitched roof on the front portion of the building, but doing some alterations to that roof line. They're also adding like a new front entryway with a parapet wall to give the front of it a little bit more of a design. And then the back portion of the building is going to be the new addition portion of the structure, which is clad with a variety of different masonry material, and then a wood-like synthetic material installed like in a shiplap pattern. And that wood-like type material is used on the rear portion of the building as well as the front portion of the building, along with the varying masonry of different gray tones. There's, I think, 3 different types of masonry patterns that are used on the building. There are some windows scattered throughout 3 sides of the building that are visible. There is one overhead garage door on the west side of the building facing Milk Can. The overhead door is a metal painted door that's shown roughly matching the colors of the building with a few glass windows within it. The resolution just clarifies that the colors of the door and any other pedestrian doors must match the colors of the building. Access to the site right now is going to stay the same as it currently is, which is off of Janesville Road, and it shares an access with Milk Can. Customers will enter the site, park in the front of the new storefront. Along the west side is where employees will park and service vehicles will park near the overhead door entrance to the service area. The east side is the location for the retail vehicles along with some stalls facing Janesville Road. There is a small parking lot addition proposed on the Janesville Road side of the lot, and all drive aisles do meet the 24-foot width. There are 51 parking stalls illustrated on the plan. And there's an additional spot noted in the corner of the back of the parking lot for one tow truck. Tow truck parking stalls identified as a standard 18-foot depth. Typically, the tow trucks are longer than that size, and then we are going to need to see an amendment before a building permit would be issued that would show the stall being a more realistic size to ensure that the drive aisle is not going to be impeded with the tow truck still being stored there. Employees are going to park along the front portion of the west side of the building. There are 4 spaces for repair vehicles at the back of the west side of the building, and these parking stalls for the repair vehicles cannot be used for any kind of junk, wrecked, or damaged vehicles. The resolution does state that as a condition of approval. Employee and repair vehicle stalls are separated by a landscape island, and the vehicles for sale are located on the east side of the building in front. Concrete curb and gutter are shown on the new addition portions of the site, so the southern expansion of the parking lot does contain curb and gutter on 2 of the sides. Staff is recommending that the third side be enclosed, as the typical policy has been enclosing any new paved areas with concrete curb and gutter. They do have ample parking for what they're proposing for the use. There is an easement that's shown on the survey for this property that does cut under the new addition of the building. One of the conditions in the resolution is that we have to make sure that that is signed off on by the power company or whoever owns the easement, or vacated before the construction would occur. Typical hours for sales will be 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, with service operating from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday. They're typically anticipating 10 to 15 appointment slots daily for the sales area and service areas based upon bay availability. Fire department will have to review the site plan. There is an existing dumpster enclosure shown on the plans in the back of the site, and there is a dumpster enclosure on site now. It's in not the best condition, so we will want to have that reconstructed to screen the dumpsters with some kind of solid material, meaning not chain link fencing or slatting, some kind of solid material for that enclosure, which must be permitted and approved as part of the building permit. There will be no other outdoor storage for vehicles unless they're vehicles for sale or waiting to be serviced. And any of the stalls that are for employees or customers should be vacant when the building and business is not in operation, closed at night. And to clarify, no junk, salvaged, inoperable, or irreparable vehicles are allowed to be stored on site. Landscaping has been provided, showing some minimal landscaping along the entryway near the front entry door and a landscape island on the west side of the building. There are some trees between Janesville Road. However, the landscape plan would definitely need to be modified, as it seems to show more trees than that really exist out there. So that's not a big deal. We'll require the landscaping be addressed per city standards and per the resolution before building permits would be issued. Any signage will have to meet our signage requirements at the 5% requirement. Those will be reviewed at a permit at a separate date. As far as lighting goes, any lighting that's existing can remain. Anything that's new or replaced will have to meet our current standards, which would include 0-degree tilt, full cutoff, any new bases being 6 inches or less above grade, with a max pole height of 15 feet or eave height of the building, whichever is greater. Otherwise, they're not adding any significant impervious surface, but our engineering will ensure that there's no other stormwater requirements or green infrastructure that would need to be met. And just a few other notes that any kind of mechanicals will have to be screened, ground or roof mounted. Any bollards, railings, louvers, vents, ladders will have to be painted to match the color of the building. And those are all the typical approvals that we have on these projects. So staff is recommending approval for this based upon those items, and can open the public hearing.
All right. Is there anyone here from the public who'd like to be heard on this matter? If there is, please come forward to the microphone, state your name, address.
Good afternoon. My name is Rene Farias. I live in West 167, South 7294, Briargate Lane. Right behind the service station, the BP and Firestone. So pretty much kitty corner from what the new building will be. It seems like most of the issues that I will be addressed with the plan, but I just want to be on record as I was when Firestone suggested proposed the same type of or similar type of operation. The oil leakage from any business like this, I understand there won't be any junk cars parked there or anything like that, but we need to ensure that no oil is seeping through that pond, which is already highly contaminated, and we live right next to it. So the issue of oil for us is very important. The other one is the noise. Keith from Firestone was very helpful. He did a very good job protecting us from the noise. A lot of traffic, a lot of cars coming in and out. We're very close. We've been here for 40 years, and we have been very peacefully living in that place. Now we're being filled up with cars coming in and out. But again, Firestone and the owner, Keith, has done a very good job about that. So we hope the owners of this building will do the same. In regards to the trees that are there, and looking at the drawings, I see a lot of trees on Janesville, but I don't see a lot of protection in the back. It's not there anymore. We want to ensure that those trees that are in the back stay. Hopefully, they're not going to cut them because they have been a great buffer for us. They are high. They've been there for many, many years. And we hope that we continue using them as not only as a beautiful place, but also as a buffer for noise and any other nuisances. Also, we would like to see that they add to these trees, that they add something, either a berm or some type of other type of trees that could help with being isolated as we are right now. So those are our concerns from my family, and thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Camilla Yost. I'm at South 73, West 16825, Briar Gate Lane. I live behind Milk Can Pizza and your new proposed site. So again, as Renee said, I'm concerned that they'll take down vegetation in the back. There's a lot of hard trees that have been there a long time. I'm concerned about oil runoff, water pollution maybe from a car wash, anything that might affect the pond and its environment, its vegetation. Who would be responsible for keeping the health of the pond up when I assume you have to wash a new car, so I would not begrudge them that. I'm concerned about noise. I'm concerned about light pollution. I didn't quite get the hours that you said that they'd be open, but it seemed within appropriate limits. But if I have new cars on my lot, I'm going to want a light on it so there isn't any theft going on. Will those lights be aimed towards Janesville Road, or will they be aimed back towards my house? Will they be extremely high? Will they keep them directional? What are the lumens that they're going to let them use after hours? Can they even dim them after hours for our sake? How much more asphalt or concrete are they going to put down? Are they going to take away from green space where we as residents have to keep a certain amount of green space, lawn? We can't put in more concrete and more asphalt. How much do they get to put in? If I had concerns, who would I put it in writing to? Who would I send it to? My alderman, my mayor? These are all things I'm thinking about. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Ingersoll. I actually own the vacant property between Mill Camp and these people, and actually part of the pond, I believe. I have a concern with the easement that you've referenced. I think you're implying the easement that I'm aware of, that I have ownership, is on the west end, which is access for my property. Sounds like the employees are going to be parking on that side, and you're asking for approval of the owners of the easement, which I believe I have a right. I am one of the owners, and I will not give permission because that's my only access to the property, unless they want to buy it from me. I agree with what the other people have said about the pond, especially since a portion of the pond is on my property. I do not think the majority of their property has any brush on it right now. I think the majority of it is on mine. And it's all underbrush, which at some point needs to be cleared and cut out. Basically, all the concerns that the residents have raised, since my property is even closer, I would like to magnify. But I really am concerned about this easement because that's the only access to this property. And it sounds like you're either asking for me to sign off to whatever they do, or it almost sounds like you've granted permission in the layout. I haven't seen, the only drawing that we were given was this. I'm sure the information was available online. But I'd like to get some information and clarity from you as to where the parking is. Does it infringe on this easement? Is the land under the easement going to be paved and maintained so I can have access? Or will I have to do that as a separate cost when I decide to come back and develop the property? Those are what I know so far. from what you've told me, I'm sure there'll be more questions, and I'd like to hear some answers at some point. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that'd like to be heard in this matter? Would the petitioner want to say anything? Sure.
Hi, my name is Fuad Rabi. I'm gonna be the operator and the manager for National Auto. I would like to respond to some of the concerns that some of the residents raised, and I leave the engineering and the technical aspect to our architect to respond to it. Number one, regarding the pollution. Well, in our plan, we already contracted a company that all oil that will be produced from car, which is in our operation, will be very, very minimal. It's going to be recycled and shipped outside of the premises. It will never stay in the premises. It will never be washed down the drains. Also in our plans, we stated that we are, even before any concerns has been raised, we are going to use an equipment with a very low noise level, so just to give the residents around us the right to enjoy their property. And also we restricted our operation from 9 to 5 for the mechanical aspect, so we won't bother any of the neighborhood. I want to assure everybody in the neighborhoods around us that you will be our customers. You are our target customers. We will love to serve you, and we want you to have a good neighborly relationship. For the lady, I missed her name, that she said if she has any concern, who she should reach out to. My number will be available. I'm going to be in that property most of the time. I'm going to be managing that property. She can reach out to me directly even, like if she feels that's appropriate, before she reach out to the city or during she's reaching out to the city. We will be working with our neighbors very, very closely. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to be heard in this matter? Seeing none, I declare this public hearing closed.
One thing I'll mention for the audience is when we get to this item where it's actually discussed further, I'll answer a lot of those questions.
All right. All right, continuing on with the agenda, consent business, resolution PC 020-2023, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Eagle Park Brewing and Distillery Company located at South 64 West 15640 Commerce Center Parkway, tax key number 2166997-003.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to list them all. This is consent. Resolution PC 021-023, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Fun Things Toy Service, Inc., located at South 75 West 17315 Janesville Road, tax key number 2196032, and resolution PC 022-2023, approval of a certified survey map for Caring Alternatives of Muskego LLC, located at West 182 South 8320 Pioneer Drive, tax key number 2223.999. Now, if I could get a motion to approve and
Move to
gross.
approve in total.
I will second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. New business for consideration, resolution PC 018-2023, approval of a building site and operation plan and conditional use grant for National Auto located at South 73 West 16730 Janesville Road, tax key number 2198984-002.
Move to approve. I'll second.
Discussion. This is the property that was discussed in the public hearing. These are two separate things. So the public hearing dealt with the rezoning of the land. A lot of the concerns that people brought up actually have more to do with the building site and operation of this. We married them together because they are closely tied, but rezoning the property doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to approve the building site and operation, so.
It's a conditional use grant on this one.
I'm sorry.
Similar thing though.
Conditional use, same thing, yes.
Yeah.
So, that being said, discussion.
Do you want me to kind of go over some of those items
Sure, I was just
first?
going to see if anyone had questions first before you did, but that's fine.
So as far as any kind of oil leakage and stuff, there shouldn't be any cars outside. You know, they're not allowed to have any junk or wrecked vehicles. This is not a body shop. You know, body shop is a very different type of approval than any kind of service center. So a vehicle waiting outside shouldn't be leaking anything any differently than a car in a parking lot at Milk Can or something like that. You know, inside the building is where the actual repairs will be going on, and they'll be required especially because all the repairs are in the new back portion of the building. They're going to have to follow all state and city building codes, including anything relating to environmental. So I don't know if that means some kind of special trap for the oil. I know auto uses have special things that are needed in the garage to absorb and collect that kind of material. They'll have to follow all the most current codes in the plumbing and everything like that in the building code. So that's one thing for us will be very a safe thing. Now, if something happens like a spill, that's something that's, you know, you'd have to deal with on a one-up occasion, but everything should be stored indoors, and inside will have the proper collection systems that meet all of the state and city required plumbing, building, electrical codes, whatever it might be. And like I said, auto shops are unique to their code. It's very different than if I was just building a warehouse or something, because they know in the codes that they are dealing with different volatile materials. As far as noise goes, as they mentioned, their repair hours are very limited to typical business hours. Just like any use though, if at any point issues come up with noise, obviously like the owner said, you'll be able to reach out to them as well as your alderperson. You know, the city of Muskego's complaint process for any business that's causing a problem is let the alderperson know. They're going to be your liaison between us and city staff and the applicant. So I'm confident from the way everything's proposed, it shouldn't be an issue. But if something were to come up, we address it starting with the alderperson, and we're confident the way the resolution is written that we're doing everything we can do to minimize any kind of impact just because of the times and where things are allowed to be kept and stored. As far as trees and stuff in the back of the site go, as part of their proposal, they are not allowed to remove any trees behind this building. The biggest thing to keep in mind is they're not expanding the parking lot, except for one small area between the building and Janesville Road. They're doing enough for just a few parking stalls. So all the parking and paving that's on the east side, the west side, and the back side is staying as is. So their approval is not including any clearing behind that building. That's going to be expected to stay as it is. So there's nothing back there that is going to be removed. That was something that staff was cognizant of, knowing that the trees behind are a natural buffer. We wanted to make sure that those stay intact and continue to do what they've been doing for many years. As far as, let's see what else we got here. Lights. So as I mentioned, their lights, the city has very particular lighting requirements relating to what level the foot candles, it's not lumens we measure foot candles at the lot lines. They'll have to follow all of the different requirements in the code, which identify 0.5 foot candles at the lot line for lighting levels, and they'll have to provide a photometric plan showing us that. Anything that's existing lighting can stay existing, so it's there. Anything they want to replace or put in new will have to meet all of our current standards, which will require that the lighting source be completely concealed in the unit, meaning full cutoff basically, and 0 degree tilt, meaning it has to be pointed parallel to the ground. They can't have anything that's like a spotlight, so everything will have to point directly downward. And that's a standard the city has had for quite a long time now and has been really, really effective in combination with the limited pole heights and the photometric plans. Like I mentioned, asphalt, the only asphalt that's being added is a small portion in the front of the building. The rest of the site is staying as is, so what you see now is what you're going to get. As far as the easement that was mentioned by Mr. Ingersoll, the easement I'm mentioning is not the access easement. The access easement to your lot is on the Milk Can property, and it runs along their eastern property line. This easement runs east to west, and it's for the power company, We Energy's easement. So they are not doing anything that would affect your easement. They're not changing anything. They're not adding anything. The easement we're talking about was on their survey, and it's really an easement for the power company that we believe isn't even utilized, but that will be the power company decision on if they're okay with that staying or not. The only other thing I wanted to mention to the board up here would be one thing that was meant to be in the resolution, and I don't see it, but I'm thinking we may want to add it, as we typically do for car uses, is an annual review. All of our other car sales uses, at least 90% of them, at least when they're new, we'll say that. We do have an annual review put in place on the typical schedule like the others in March or so, and I would recommend amending the resolution to add that.
Further comments, questions?
I have one. Adam, you might have mentioned it in the kind of the review prior to the public hearing. By the picture, I don't notice curb, but I thought you said curb is going to be required?
So their plan is to not repave the parking lot.
Okay.
They may seal coat it or something, which they're allowed to do. And because they're not repaving it, they're not required to curb it. The resolution does state, though, that if they would remove and replace, they would have to curb the entire thing. Right now, they're proposing curbing on that area where, if you look on the screen where the cursor's pointing, that front area, that's the only expanded parking area. That expanded area, per the resolution, is required to have curbing on all three sides of it. They show it as two, but the resolution says all three sides have to have it because that is the only new paved area. But if they would come in and say, hey, we need to repave the whole lot, they would have to curb the entire thing then. But since it's kind of staying status quo, our policy has been to leave it status quo until they change or replace it.
Any further comments or questions? Do you understand all the restrictions in the resolution as far as storage of vehicles, everything on the outside? I'm making a point of you acknowledging that because we've had problems with other car dealers in town not following that. So I just want to make sure you're clear on that. We do enforce it, and it can get monetarily very expensive if you don't comply with that. So.
I do understand the rules, and I have no plans to break those
All right.
rules. Again, I'm doing business in a neighborhood that I would love to have every single resident of that neighborhood become my customer. So in order for me to do this, I have to comply with every single.
Yeah, that's good. I just wanted it for the record that if you don't, we can come back and point to, you said it, I asked you.
You're on tape.
Any further questions or comments?
Can we just have that amendment for the
Yes.
annual review then?
Yeah, I'd like to add that, move to make
Approved
that
for an
amendment.
annual?
For the annual, yes.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion to amend? All those in favor of the motion to amend, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any further discussion on the motion as amended? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on, Resolution PC 019, 2023, approval of an accessory structure located at South 70 West 16393 Hedgewood Drive, tax key number 2172009.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Adam?
All right, thank you, Mayor. This item is for an accessory structure that has a metal roof on it. As the Plan Commission may remember, it was a year or two ago now, we kind of came in front of the Plan Commission as we were seeing a lot of these, a lot of people use Costco. I'll use an example, Costco gazebos. They're usually wood structures or metal structures, and they typically have a metal roof. And our ordinance doesn't typically allow a metal roof because it doesn't match the roof on the house. So after a bunch of discussion, the Plan Commission basically said, let's kind of do this trial thing, which we're kind of doing now, and we've seemed to have good success. And the Plan Commission basically said, if your building's over, if it's 225 square feet or less, you don't have to come for Plan Commission. You are allowed metal because it's a real comment. A lot of these that we see are smaller. This applicant is looking at doing a larger building, not significantly larger, but 288 square feet that has a metal roof. And they're now here at Plan Commission because it is over that size limit. So it's very similar to what the Plan Commission kind of allows by default with the permit. It's just an additional 60-some square feet bigger. So it's basically here to make sure if the Plan Commission is okay with allowing that size structure with a metal roof because it doesn't match the home. Colors are very similar. It's just the material. Staff doesn't see any problems with this as we have much bigger buildings that have metal roofs in the city that don't even match as nice as this one does.
Questions or comments? Adam, I have a question. So I don't have any issue with this, but say we did require them to have the same roof. 10 years down, or say they have a hailstorm, they got to replace the roof. There's not a permit process for the roof, is there?
Yeah, any roof replacements, always, the outbuilding house are supposed to have a permit, and that's what we would be able to
All right, so we would catch it there.
see, yeah.
All right. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Resolution PC 023, 2023, approval of a building site and operation plan amendment for Smile Pediatric Dentistry located at South 75 West 17331 Janesville Road, tax key number 2196032.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion?
Thank you, Mayor. So as is noted, this is for Smile Pediatric pediatric dentistry. They're seeking BSO approval amendment for a build out of approximately a 5,200 square foot new dental office in a portion of the Jerome Drugs Retail Center. The applicant is going to be modifying the easternmost portion of that space for this project. They're going to be adding a door to the Janesville Road side, so this new dental office will have its own front-facing door. Otherwise, the front of the building will remain the same, just with the addition of this door. And they'll obviously have to create a wall separating their space from the remainder of the Jerome Drug space. As far as exterior improvements, that's really the biggest reason they come to Planning Commission is for the exterior. As I mentioned, the door on the front. They're also adding a door on the side for employees, along with 5 windows on the east side of the building. Definitely just kind of give it a nice softer look and allow natural light to come into that building there. So you're not going to really notice much different on the outside. As far as the parking goes, the site is a shopping center. There's ample parking there right now, so we're not at all worried about parking. There's parking on the east side of the building as well as the north side of the building, so that should not be a concern. They are losing 2 parking stalls, I think, as part of this, as part of the hatching out an area so the pedestrian door doesn't walk into a parking stall, but that's a minor loss considering the size of this parking lot. This user wouldn't have anything else stored outside or anything like that because their dental office and everything would be interior. One of the things we did note is we did do a site visit at the property, as we do with most of these reviews, and there is a dumpster enclosure. That's always a question that comes up, is where does the garbage go? And there is an existing dumpster enclosure kind of on the back corner of the building. It's visible from the east side of the property, and the dumpster enclosure itself is in pretty rough shape. Some of the doors are kind of hanging off or broken off. There were some dumpsters in it, but there are also a handful of dumpsters outside of it, so it's definitely not enclosing most of the dumpsters there, as well as there was a couple trailers parked in that back part of the building. So one of the things we just noted as kind of part of this, since it's part of this site, was as part of the issuance of permits, they just need to work with the landowner to get the dumpster enclosure fixed up or enlarge it if need be to enclose the dumpsters, and then the trailers that aren't approved to be out there, just remove those from this site. Otherwise, this should be a nice addition to the city, and staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. PC 024-2023, discussion of a conceptual condominium development for Burback homes located along the west side of Country Club Lane, tax key number 2258-996006. It's just discussion. So
Yeah, because it's conceptual.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so as a reminder for the Plan Commission, when an applicant is kind of testing the waters and kind of early stages of checking something out for a project to see if it will kind of work, they're welcome for a minimal fee to come to the Plan Commission. We always tell them they don't get a yes or no answer typically. They're going to get a conversation with the Plan Commission kind of back and forth, or any kind of comments, so they can get some direction on if they think they should take this project to the next step. So in this case, this would be kind of just west of the newly rebuilt, I should say, roadway now, because it's a public roadway that leads to the entry of Muskego Lakes Country Club. As part of the Cornerstone development that's just east of here, this road, former driveway was turned into a road. And what the Burbacks are looking at doing is off the west side of it, adding a total of 9 side-by-side condominium buildings for a total of 18 units. Now, when they first brought this up to us, this is a heavily wooded area. There was a concept shown here years ago from a different developer, but their plan was to kind of hack apart all the woods as part of this. And this is an area that has some pretty significant trees, a lot of old growth trees. Our forester looked at it and definitely saw some quality there. So it doesn't mean they can't develop it. It means we want to develop it in as smart of a way as possible to help preserve and minimize impact to that. So they did a great job, I think, in the concept of kind of pulling all the units closer to the road and basically minimizing the footprint as much as possible. I think they realized the benefit of having the marketability of, these nice wooded backyards and stuff like that. So as part of this proposal, they would have to ask for a planned development rezoning, because the planned development rezoning would allow a reduced front yard setback, which we encouraged. Once again, bring them closer to the road to minimize that tree impact. These are units that aren't going to have a big grassy backyard. They're meant, to have living in nature, and they want to preserve as many of the trees as they can. And then you'll see on the north end, there's a little bit of a kind of cul-de-sac bulb just to kind of get a couple units so they aren't too tight along the roadway in there. So there'll be a little more impact there, but predominantly the bulk of this site, which goes further west, has some wetlands and woodlands. They are going to be preserving a really significant portion of this. I think the total lot is about 20 acres or so. And you're seeing on here that they're just impacting a very small portion of it immediately along that roadway. So the staff really thinks this could be decent. It's the best way to say, hey, if development's inevitable here and we have to allow it, how do we allow it in a way that it doesn't impact needs to? We feel this is a good way to do that. We think the developers kind of did some good modifying to get to this point. The only thing we kind of mentioned as a comment, and I know that they submitted some plans, is just kind of a rough conceptual idea, is the idea of masonry. Typically, the Plan Commission looks for 50% masonry on most condo buildings or something close to it. If there's, real high-end architecture. So that's just one thing that if this would come forward, we'd probably, Plan Commission would probably scrutinize that a little bit more to getting up to the masonry percentage. But otherwise, the buildings look good. The layout looks like it could work, and just kind of any feedback from the Plan Commission before they would eventually take the step to do a public hearing for a plan development rezoning, which would be the next step.
Adam, remind me what condition the road is in. I see, what is it called, Chuck Way there? Chuck Way, is that?
Let me just pull up the map here.
Country Club Way?
Yeah.
So Country Club Lane is a full-blown city road right now. It was recently built. It, in the last year, it's
Part
been
of the new
paved.
development.
Yeah, so even though it was formerly the location of the driveway to the golf course, right now it's very clearly a nice, clean, it's actually really beautiful the way it kind of meanders in the trees. And it goes up pretty far before it kind of transitions from the end of the road, there's a little cul-de-sac, to the golf course entry. So they would be coming off of a public city road.
Okay.
And it is to our standards. One thing to mention too, I know that developers have kind of talked with Scott and our engineering department with the utilities and things. These will all be provided, these will all be serviced by city sewer and city water. So that's something that the developer would work with our engineering team on to figure out how that all happens and meet all the requirements, but there would be infrastructure involved with this.
Are there any plans for a clubhouse or outbuildings for this at all?
I don't believe so. There's
Okay.
not the best space for it.
Cul-de-sac a public road then, or private?
No, it doesn't have to be. Usually these are done via a condo plat, which is the easiest tool. And with a condo plat, that little cul-de-sac could be a private road if they wanted to be. It would really be up to them. If we keep it a private road, we don't have to maintain it. It kind of depends partially on what they would want to do. Most condo developers like the private road because they can build it a little bit different, and it probably allows a smaller impact to the trees if they keep it private because they don't have to worry about as larger right-of-ways and things like that.
Are these age restricted? So bus turnaround might be an issue if it's.
But the bus doesn't have to go down it, the cul-de-sac.
It doesn't, but it's got to turn around somewhere.
There is a turnaround on the northern end that was put in as part of Country Club Lane.
Okay.
It's like a temporary cul-de-sac, but it meets the width for all of our standard requirements, yeah.
Any other questions or feedback?
I have maybe just one other question. I guess as we look longer range, if down the road, this is kind of the only main artery serving that golf course. If the golf course was ever developed someday, that would we see this as kind of a main entry point to that area? And I only ask that because I actually like the cul-de-sac because it lessens the amount of driveways along a very busy street in the long-term planning.
It could be. I mean, it's a road that has future growth. No one ever knows what's going to happen with the golf course. Any golf course you could say that about. There is a lot of development potential on the course itself or even surrounding it to the west. There's a lot of vacant land right now. It could. That's the best answer I can give you is say it could have more, but it's impossible to say now.
And maybe, I understand. Maybe I should ask this in another way. There's limited access off of Loomis Road.
Correct.
The state wouldn't give
does not allow giving accesses very easily. However, so in your scenario, if the golf course getting developed, they could also come in from the back some way too.
Yeah, because the golf course is such a big property, they'd be coming from multiple ways. Like, for example, the Stonebridge subdivision, which is kind of just northeast of here, where there's an emergency access now. That road is planned to be extended to. There is an access point they do have from the state further west that's not on the golf course property, but it could connect to the golf course property someday. So there are definitely a couple different options down the road.
Okay. I think that would be my only initial thought. I think the development looks, I mean, the buildings look nice. It would be all one cohesive, these wouldn't be subdivided out into outlots, would they?
No, correct. You do a condo plat, so it's one,
Okay.
that's what that's most common.
Any plans for development, the property that would be direct east of that? There's a wooded area, the strip that runs to the east side of the Country Club Lane.
There is not, when that's owned by the Cornerstone condos that are being developed right now, and as part of what they did and kind of how they broke down and shared their density and stuff, that was kind of left as a preservation area, so no,
Oh, okay,
it
that-
would
that
stay,
was-
yeah.
Designated preservation area.
Yeah, I don't know if it is a formal easement, but it was kind of a mutually agreed upon.
Okay.
And they own it, so that the ownership group of that other side owns
Right,
that.
right. Okay.
Any other comments? Did you get your questions answered? Yeah. Otherwise, you come up to the microphone and talk. Sure.
With regard to the,
Oh, Jason, could you just state your name and address for the
Jared.
record? Jared, I'm sorry, yeah.
Jared Burback, South 91, West 13527, Boxhorn Drive, Muskego. With regards to the stone on the building, on the four sides, in an effort to keep these somewhat affordable, you know, the back of all these buildings are going to be facing trees that no one will ever see the back of these buildings. And the way it's, I mean, I already got a lot of stone on there, and to add more stone, we're putting almost $30,000 worth of stone on the back of the building that nobody's ever gonna see. I agree with the sides, the front, I can add a little more stone to the front, but to put $30,000, I mean, we're gonna have these, hopefully, the idea is to keep these units so close to the trees that these people are gonna have a minimal backyard. They're condos, people don't want yards. So it's not like the people that live there will even be able to go back and enjoy the stone, the stone on their house. So I was asking if we could kind of, just on the rear of the buildings, kind of give or take a little bit on that, just to kind of keep the cost down on these. Otherwise, it's getting to the point where it's upside down.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak for the plan commission, but I think we would recommend, yeah, because one thing with 50% is plan commission can play with totals.
Okay.
And if there's more on the front of the sides and less or none in the back, let's be real, you don't see it from anywhere. I don't think as a planner, I would have any issues with that. As long as it's made up for it.
As long as you made up for it in the front, I guess I wouldn't have an issue with that personally either. The only thing I will say about that in general is we have been very consistent with every development that comes into this city.
Oh, I agree.
And there have been developers that had to come back because they tried to shortchange it on the other end, and they've been fined for it. So I wouldn't want to back down from something like that in general. I don't think that's. I think we're trying to be really consistent, and so that, I just say that everyone else has figured out a way to make it happen. So
Yeah, fair enough, but the other condo developments that that are in the city, because I drove around them, none of them back up to what's going to be a conservancy that no one will ever be able to go to. It's wetlands, so I can't even put a trail in there. So it's just a huge added expense, and we already have to run the sewer down that road, so we have to tear up that road. And it's just getting to the point where this project is upside down. You just can't justify the cost of these condos. So that's just, I wanted to say if we could work a little more, just on the rear. I have no problem adding it to the front, adding it to the sides where people are gonna see it.
I think Adam was clear, is the percentage is, you know, how you work it.
Yeah.
Is fine. If
Okay.
you don't want to put it in the back, move it to the front. Yeah.
Okay, and then the only other question again is I probably could ask Adam, do you guys take in consideration the gables too as part of the fit? Because
We count it as part of the area, but I don't want to speak for the plan commission again, but I feel like we're typically very fair on it. It's more of just kind of the overall presence, not an exact number. It's not, are you at 49.9 or it's more just how does the overall picture work together?
Okay.
But yes, we do count that as part of wall area, but it's, yeah, we're not expecting to put masonry up there.
okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Well, this was for discussion only. I guess I missed the approval of the minutes, so I'm going to jump back to that. Which date, what were the dates on it?
March 7th.
All right. I'll need a motion to approve the minutes from March 7th,
So moved.
2023.
Second?
Any corrections or changes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Any miscellaneous business? Seeing none, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 6:57. Thank you.